Welcome back to another episode of I Am NAMI Kansas, a mental health podcast by Kansans for Kansans. Tonight we're at Skateaway, which is the roller skating rink here in Topeka, Kansas, and we are watching the Crushers, the local roller derby team, practice. So tonight we're just doing kind of a really relaxed sort of podcast. We'll be talking with some of the Crushers team members about their mental health journeys and what roller derby means to them. All right, so we're here with Spawn right now. I'm really happy to be here at the practice. I'm really excited to see you all do your thing. What has your journey with mental health looked like, if you're comfortable telling me just a little bit, a lot, whatever you want to talk about?
Yeah. I have anxiety and I've also struggled with depression in the past, but having an anxiety diagnosis is not the best thing. It's mental health disorder is pleasant. I mean, coming to Derby really helps because it is very regular. I don't work a standard 9 to 5, but I always know Derby is from 8 to 10 at the same place. And, routine is one of the best things for mental health.
I'm glad you mentioned the routine thing. I think when people talk about mental health recovery, they tend to think like, I have to go to therapy, I have to take medication, which obviously can help. Like, it helped me. But yeah, but routine is really important. Humans really crave that consistency. So for you with roller derby, has that consistency help you like emotionally regulate, or how has it impacted you?
Having the routine is really nice because it's very predictable. It's the same thing. I mean, obviously we do different things at Derby, but it's the same thing. And I mean, you get exercise, which is also helpful.
And how has being on a derby team impacted your mental health? Has that helped you at all?
So my mom actually used to be on the team. She has since retired, but being a part of a team, especially on a team with your family, is really nice. My mom is awesome. One, the extra support from my mom and sort of being welcomed in this community that I have observed for the past 10 years. Is just really nice, and having that support. This is my third space beyond just home and work. This is my third space, and it's really nice to be interacting with other people.
So earlier you mentioned how derby is a form of exercise. Before you were doing derby, was there any kind of exercise or activity you were doing? If so, what was that, and how did that impact you?
So I actually didn't do a lot of exercise. I played on various sports teams in high school, but I was a bench warmer and I wasn't that good. So while I would go on walks pretty religiously, I didn't do a lot of exercise, and lazing around in bed, while seemingly delightful at the time, I have found is not helpful for my mental health in the long run, because then you're just stewing, which is kind of counterproductive, at least for me.
So you mentioned that was in high school. When did you receive your diagnoses, if you don't mind telling?
It was only a year and a half ago.
So you were recently diagnosed with it. How long did you struggle with symptoms before you finally got help? And what made you finally get help?
I've probably struggled with it, I'm guessing, at least since 9th grade. It's hard to guess.
Yeah.
But I just was doing terrible in college, and I wasn't doing good. And my dad basically sat me down and was like, "You're going to therapy, not non-optional." And I was like, "Great." And for the first several weeks, I mean, crying is probably doesn't seem like the best thing for therapy, but it means that you're facing things that you don't want to face, because when you have anxiety, you don't want to face things. So forcing to face it was really helpful to me in the long run. And actually, the therapist that I went and saw with my dad actually thought I had autism, but instead I had anxiety.
I started regularly going to therapy when I was 19, and I've had almost every anxiety disorder in the book. So I remember when I went there, I cried, even just walking there to set up the appointment. So I totally know what you're talking about. I know for myself, it took me a little bit to kind of get over that anxiety hump, to say I'm safe with this therapist and I can be more open and talk with her about stuff. Was there kind of a hump for you too, where you had to get accustomed to things, or how did starting therapy look for you?
So I first started therapy when I was 14 because I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So I got a therapist to help me through that. The problem is that I was not completely open with my therapist, so I wasn't getting anything out of it, so I stopped going. And when I got diagnosed with anxiety, I literally told my therapist there, I need a therapist that will not blink when I try to throw glitter in their face and try to distract and squirrel away. And she basically said, I can be that for you. It's really nice when you get along with your therapist, but it's better when your therapist will call you out on things.
Yeah, definitely. And it sounds like you were able to establish like a trusting relationship with your therapist, which is really important. I would say that's one of the most important aspects of therapy because you can't get better if your therapist is someone you can't trust. So were you able to trust her pretty quickly because she said, I can call you out when you need called out? Or also how important was advocating for yourself in that, developing that relationship?
So, I mean, historically speaking, advocating for myself is something I've always been terrible with. So did help that the therapist that I see now is the therapist that diagnosed me and I had to take all the tests and assessment quizzes. She kind of had a running start. So she's really awesome. And the first several weeks of therapy, I would always leave crying. But, now I really look forward to it.
So in a way, therapy is also kind of something consistent you can look forward to, like Derby, right?
Yeah, I see her very regularly every 2 weeks, like clockwork. So that's also pretty nice that I can have that same sort of predictability. Because just with the nature of my job, I don't have that same predictability. My shifts change each day.
Okay, so we have our NAMI Walks event coming up. So we're trying to promote mental health. What would you like to share? Like, what's your take on mental health that you would want to share to the world?
What I have learned about mental health is that you kind of have to put in the work to get to getting better. It's not fun to avoid things, and it's really weird to see the patterns within yourself and you go like, okay, that's why I did this. But it is so rewarding when I get to be like, 2 years ago, I would have done this and then that wouldn't have been good. And now I'm actively being proactive in my life and in my mental health. And it's really rewarding to see that.
So if somebody came up to you and said, Spawn, I'm really struggling with anxiety right now, is there any kind of advice you would give them? Like something that really worked for you?
I think the best thing that helped me was a therapist. But having an established routine like roller derby, or even just from A time to B time, I will be out of the house and I will not just stay in bed and watch cat videos. Having that same routine has really helped, and just leaving the house also helps, and just moving towards something and keeping your both mind and body busy. Just being active, both physically and mentally, is really helpful and does give you the building blocks to work with.
I so agree with you on that. And I know from personal experience too, there's always that tendency to be like, well, I can't leave the house or I can't do that because I'm too anxious. But for me, at least, actually forcing yourself to leave and go do something is like the most important thing you can do. Would you agree with that?
Yes. When my dad told me to go to therapy, he also told me basically you need to be out of the house during working hours. You can go to the library, you can go out to eat, you can volunteer, you can help me with my work, but you can't be in the house. You have to be out doing something, which unpleasant, but very helpful in the end.
Well, Spawn, thank you so much for talking with me today and sharing your story and sharing some really great pearls of wisdom. Thank you. So now we're talking with Belladonna, one of our other derby girls here tonight. I guess my first question is, how did you get involved with roller derby?
So I started skating when I was about 9 or 10 years old, and my best friend, who's also still on the team, she skates under the name Steele. Her mom was one of the coaches and the players on the adult team, and she really wanted to start a junior team. So I got to be one of like the first 6 juniors to start playing in Topeka, and I played into high school, and then I took a break just to focus on school and academics. And then when I got to nursing school a couple years ago, I realized that I needed kind of an outlet for stress, and it brought me back to Derby.
And I've heard from so many people how stressful nursing school is. So how has Derby been an outlet for that stress?
I think I would have really long days, and it's really hard being in nursing school and just as a nurse now. You spend a lot of your day just compartmentalizing and worrying about, just getting things done on time. And when you get to Derby, you're not really stressed anymore because you just have a team around you that is helping you, and you get that camaraderie that you kind of don't have when you're, trying to complete all these tasks during the day. And it just kind of feels like a really nice, safe space where I just get to decompress and be myself. And
I just finished social work program, so I kind of get like I need a place to go to just like scream about something. So when it comes to stress, is that stress just normal life stress, or does it sometimes tip over into like anxiety, depression, similar things?
I think definitely both. There's always the normal life stress, but I think that I've definitely had a lot of anxiety, especially through nursing school, just with all of the stress. And I think that Derby has been a great outlet for all of that anxiety. And I don't really have to be as stressed when I'm here. And even if I am, I have a team of people who understand what it is to struggle with mental health and who have gone through similar things and can just kind of be there to support me.
So Derby is obviously a very, very physical sport. And so I can imagine then that when you're talking about getting out frustration or stress, it can both be like a physical act as well as like a social one too, because you're talking with your teammates as well, right?
Yeah, there's definitely just a lot of great teamwork and great communication. I think communication is really essential in Derby because we're all trying to achieve a common goal. And I think that definitely translates both on the track and off the track. And that physical component is really nice. I think it's pretty common knowledge now that endorphins can kind of make you happy. And there's a lot of exercise component to Derby. And kind of the great thing is that you don't really have to be any certain shape or size or have any sort of, specific athleticism. You can kind of still get something from Derby no matter who you are.
So that sort of leads into my next question, because I was going to say, Derby to me, from what I've witnessed, seems pretty stressful, and yet as like a stress reliever for you. So I was going to ask you, what makes it a stress reliever when your adrenaline's running and you're up against people?
I really think that it is just that team aspect of things where you just, even if you get on the track and you don't have the best jam or something doesn't go well, it's never, nobody ever blames you for it. You're always just surrounded by lots of support, and that's kind of what takes the anxiety and everything out of it, where, it can be tense at times, but I think that it's tense for all of the right reasons, whereas a lot of times when I'm coming to Derby stressed, I think I'm stressed for a lot of the wrong reasons. And so it's that nice balance that helps.
So earlier we were talking with Spawn, and Spawn talked about the exercise component being a really helpful thing. You're also mentioning like the exercise component is helpful. And earlier you said that Derby doesn't have to be for a particular shape or size, which I think is really important to emphasize. I think a lot of people tend to think, oh, I can't exercise because I'm not the right shape or because my body type isn't right. Have you ever struggled with any kind of similar thoughts, or what would you tell to someone who might be struggling with that kind of thought?
I've been a lot of different shapes and sizes. I've been playing Derby since I was 9, so I've kind of gotten to grow with the sport, and I've come to it in different times of athleticism. And I think no matter where I'm at, even if I get out on the track and I'm winded super quick, you get back up and you keep trying, and that's okay. But we have there's different positions in Derby, and maybe you don't have the best endurance and you're not going to be a jammer, but blockers are just as important to the game, and your endurance maybe doesn't have to be as good, and even if it's not good when you get there, we're here twice a week doing drills to get better, and you don't necessarily have to be thin or any particular size to have the good endurance. One of my favorite things has always been I can't really run. I'm not a runner, but the wheels do the work for me. You just have to, keep putting one foot in front of the other. So
I love that. Just the fact that you can always get better at something and that there's multiple ways of doing something. I think about my sister's a cheerleader, and when she was younger, she was kind of short, and then when she got older, she got really tall. She couldn't be a flyer, but she could be a back spot, which is extremely important for cheerleading because you need that support. And that comes back to that teamwork aspect too. So it seems like we're talking about how can I better myself? How can I better my mental health? How can I find community? Exercising or even just doing some kind of activity with a team and having that role is maybe a big part in feeling better.
I would definitely say so. Everybody has their own contribution to the team, and even if we're all skating in the same position, there's different benefits to being different sizes and having different levels of endurance, because you might not be the fastest, but you could still be really sturdy, and that's going to stop an opposing jammer better than maybe somebody who is not as sturdy but is really thin and quick. So everybody brings a different role and a different contribution, and that's one of the great things about Derby.
So our NAMI Walks annual fundraising event is coming up soon. We use that event, of course, as a fundraiser, but also to promote mental health. If you were going to come and you're going to promote something, what would you want to promote about mental health? Like something you've learned to everybody?
I think something that I've learned is just that you can't be as hard on yourself, because there are a lot of times where I come to Derby and I think everybody's looking at what I'm doing, and maybe I'm not doing as good today, and then we finish the game and people are like, oh my gosh, you did great, and I realized that I was just being hard on myself, and it wasn't actually that I wasn't doing well. I just had maybe set some unrealistic expectations. So I think always kind of keeping yourself in check, that people aren't looking at you and judging you as harshly as you are yourself, has been a big learning experience for me.
Oh man, that one's so real. I've had a similar experience recently, not with roller derby, but I started doing karaoke nights. And for years, I was like, I'm a terrible singer. I was really self-conscious about it. And I started doing karaoke nights. Everyone's like, whoa, you're really good. And I was like, really? And it makes you feel really good when you put yourself out there like that and you get rewarded, right? So then if someone came to you and said, I'm struggling with a lot of unhealthy stress, I'm feeling really depressed and anxious, what would a piece of advice be that you would give to them?
I think that, you would want to know what the cause is. And I think sometimes you have to differentiate whether something is causing, the depression or the anxiety, and that's making things worse, or if there are bad things happening that are causing it. Because if you're just coming into, your day with a bad mood, then I think everything seems a lot worse throughout the day. You find the little things that aggravate you a little bit more. But if there's something that's actually the cause of it, then look for that and try and solve that problem if you can, because typically other things will kind of fall in line with that.
Yeah, that's also one of the secrets of life, I think, that people struggle to realize sometimes. So, Donana, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Really appreciate it. All right, now we are with Baby Doll. So, Baby Doll, thank you so much for coming on today.
Hello.
All right, so I'm going to ask you what I've asked the other ones. How long have you been doing roller derby, or how'd you get involved with roller derby?
Yeah, so I have been skating for 12, going on 13 years. And I actually have two other sisters. We all skate, and we all got started because of the movie Whip It came out.
Yeah.
Love Elliot Page. Shout out to them. But love that movie. We lived in Nebraska at the time. Didn't have a team there. Moved back to Kansas with family. Topeka had a team. Made the 40-minute drive out. Haven't looked back since.
What I'm learning tonight is that roller derby seems to be a family affair. Is that the case?
Oh, 100%. I think that there are a lot of siblings that skate together, whether sister, brother, sister, whatever. A lot of people didn't realize that there was 3 of us. So most people will have 2, not 3, because this is like up there with cheerleading. It's quite an expensive sport with gear and just let alone travel, but definitely 100% a family type sport, just with like blood family, definitely. But then everybody here also becomes your family. Like, I have been skating with some of these girls for over 10 years now. I've literally grown up with them. So they're literally family to me, and I will never see them any different.
That's the other thing I've been learning tonight is that you all take your team very seriously. It's like a second family to you. So, how has this roller derby family helped you and your mental health at all?
Yeah, so my mental health, really when I come here, I think I can attest for most people, we all overthink. We all get very, very anxious, very stressed out. Live in a very stressful world right now. So really when I come here, I can pretty much just shut off my brain and just only think about, defense, offense, strategies. I can worry about the world and press play when I leave this building, but I'm going to hit pause when I step in here, clear my mind, do my thing on the track, let it out there, then I'm going to restart once I leave.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing from some of your teammates as well. Just like they feel really anxious or stressed or frustrated outside the rink, but then they come in here and it's like they have a purpose, they have a routine that they just come here and do. Is that similar to how you feel?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I love the whole skating athletic part of it. Love the sweaty part. But I think also when coming here, we see these people. I see these people twice a week. So I come here and I have conversations with him no matter what, whether it's derby related or not. They're still gonna be intertwined with my personal life. And they give me helpful advice, whether it relates to skating or just personal life in general. And I think that's the best part, is that we can kind of split those, but we can also integrate them together.
So, thinking about your own experiences, maybe with various mental health related issues, has your team been really essential to you in helping you deal with those?
Yes, my team definitely has, as both an adult and definitely as a teen when I was a junior. I struggled a lot more with my mental health, definitely going through high school, figuring a lot of things out. Therapy really helped that. Go to therapy, guys. It really works, I promise.
Are you comfortable with telling us about your therapy experience at all? Just how that went?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Shout out to Becky. She was very wonderful. I wouldn't say we really dabbled in much more of my trauma part, because she didn't really specialize in that, but she really helped me regarding emotional regulation, and just me identifying my emotions. Because I can know like the basic happy, sad, angry, stuff like that. But when it comes down to like the really complex, like, am I more annoyed or am I irritated? Because those are two very different things. And she really helped me differentiate like what makes them feel different and how I can differentiate those, because then I can help myself better, especially when I'm just triggered in the moment and I can't think clearly. So it just really helps me take a step back. And she really helped with my anxiety too. Just don't overthink it. Take day by day. Is it going to matter tomorrow? No? Okay, move on with your life.
So, when we're talking about emotional regulation, why is it important for you to be able to differentiate between those really similar kind of fuzzy line emotions?
I am a very black and white person. I do not see in gray a lot of the time. So reading body language and just honestly psychology for me in general is very, very important with how I interact with people. Just because I do work retail, it's helped a lot with socialization and whatnot. But most of the time, I can't really still understand a lot of things regarding social stuff. So my emotional regulation and learning body language, especially with other people, has helped a lot of situations and reading the room. I'm like, okay, I get it now. I feel like I'm in the loop with everybody. Yeah.
So, like, it helps you kind of understand maybe what other people are thinking and also how you're going to respond to them.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps me empathize with a lot of people too, because it's so easy for you to be like, okay, well, I haven't experienced that. I don't know how you feel. Yeah. I can say whatever I want and judge it that way. Or I can put myself in their shoes, which I really, really learned in therapy. Be like, think about what they're going through first. Just think about it. Doesn't matter what's happening. Think about what is happening in their life. And I think about it that way because a lot of people project. A lot of people do.
Yeah, so a big part in your own mental health journey is not even just learning how to understand your feelings, but how to understand other people's feelings as well. Improving your own mental health has improved your ability to relate with others, which has in turn improved your mental health. It's kind of circular, right?
Yeah, I think so. Just because who am I to judge? We all experience different things. Sometimes we also experience the same things. Definitely learning people's or learn how to read emotions, body language, and learn my own emotions, 100% has helped in situations. And I am very thankful for that. Very, very thankful for Becky. And I'm very thankful for them as well. Because again, second family, I spend literally most of my time here. Shout out to them. Love all of them. Yeah.
So our NAMI Walks event's coming up. It's our annual fundraiser, but we're also promoting mental health through it too, right? So if you're going to go and you're going to promote something you learned about mental health, what would you promote out there into the world?
I think we all just get too caught up in this continuous cycle. The sun goes down every day. It comes up every day. Again, hit that reset button. Every day is a single new day. What happened yesterday? If it is literally not going to matter tomorrow, do not worry about it. That has cut so much stress out of my life just because I'm like, I will worry about the smallest things. Is it going to matter tomorrow? No. Okay, I'm not going to think about it anymore. And that really just, I stop, I think about it. Okay, I don't really have to worry about it. I shouldn't put myself in this situation where I feel uncomfortable. So I step back, I recuperate, and then I go back to reality.
And then if someone came to you and they say, I'm like really struggling with my moods, I just kind of cycle through things quickly, I'm always angry, I'm always upset or whatever, what would a piece of advice be that you would give to them?
I don't know about advice because I personally, I don't know if I could give advice in that situation. I would probably actually sit down and be like, what do you actually feel like right now? Like, okay, you can tell me that you're sad. What type of sad are we?
Yeah.
You know, like what type of sad are we feeling? Are we upset? Are we, like extremely emotional? Are we going to cry right now? And usually I follow up with, okay. But I'm also tough love type person. So I will throw jokes in there. But also be like, snap out of it. I love you. I know you. You can be better. It's just a funk right now. And I try to pull them out of that way. Because I wish that some people would do that for me to pull me out of that funk. So I found that it really helps if I do that for other people, because then maybe they can start to feel that for another person and help them in that way.
Well, baby doll, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. All right, so we're going to have our last conversation with the night with Miss Behaven. Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
How'd you get involved with roller derby?
So I got involved in roller derby. It's kind of a lengthy conversation, story, so to speak. I lost my brother to suicide. And at the same point in that time of my life, I weighed about 400 pounds. So I wasn't in a good place physically or mentally. And I realized that I needed to change something about that after his passing. He had small children. I had small children. And I realized I needed to do something. And so I had weight loss surgery. And at one of my follow-up appointments, shortly after weight loss surgery, I was very, very successful very quickly. My bariatric surgeon said, you need to have an exercise program. And I was like, now look, this is why we're in this place, because I didn't want to exercise. That wasn't fun for me. And I told my husband, I said, I really have always wanted to play roller derby, but I was physically incapable of doing it. And so he really encouraged me. We would come to the roller skating rink at Skateaway. We would go to Open Skate, and we happened to be at the skating rink with two little children very early on a Saturday. And I saw roller derby players coming in and out of the rink. And found out with one of the flyers that it was their season opener that day. And with little children, you don't often leave town, right, let them take a nap and come back. You just don't do that because we live outside of Topeka. And that day we did. He bought tickets. He said, we're going home. We're letting the kids take a nap. We're coming back. And we're going to watch this. And so we came back and we watched it. We sat in the snack bar. I remember it vividly because I fangirled over the captain at the time, who was Scarlett Oscaria. And at halftime of the game, I had no idea what was happening, but I knew I wanted to be part of it. And halftime, Scarlett Oscaria rolls over to the snack bar, to the table next to us to talk to her family, friends. And my husband goes, hey, how can she do this? And she looked at me and she goes, hey, just come on a Tuesday night and we'll get you set up. And so I did. I came on a Tuesday night, still in the middle of my weight loss journey. And they were so welcoming. Pika Punchu was the newbie coordinator at the time. And she literally would pick me up off the floor because I could not physically do it, and was so encouraging and was like, if you just keep coming back, you'll just keep getting better. And and now I'm the captain. So that's how I got to roller derby. And it was through, a very long process that involves a lot of things mental health. So, and a lot of things that affected a lot of people. So,
that kind of ties into a lot of the other conversations I've been having with, some of the team members here. For earlier we were talking with Donana about how anyone of any shape and size can join derby, and all the girls we talked to talked about how important being in derby was for their sense of community and their mental health. So I'm hearing that derby seems to be a very open and accepting and tight knit sport. Has that been your experience everywhere, or there's been variations?
I think that's been my experience with roller derby and the roller derby community overall. It's a place for anybody who is interested. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter how tall you are, because I'm a tall player for roller derby. It doesn't matter how big you are, how small you are. There's advantages to having all sorts of shapes and sizes in roller derby, for one. Not to mention just the inclusivity that everybody has. We do have some strong bonds, even with other teams. There are teams that enjoy playing us just because we are good sports, and because we are so caring, and because we are essentially extended family. We have people on different teams that we know and we check on, and that kind of thing. So one of our skater serial killer has a podcast with a skater from No Coast called Enforcer, because they skated together in juniors, and they're out of Lincoln, Nebraska, and so there's a lot of extended derby community out there.
So you started off by mentioning your brother who died by suicide. That's always a really difficult thing to live through. How has roller derby impacted the way that you relate to mental health or subjects like depression, suicide, if at all?
I'm a registered nurse by trade. And so, you get educated about all these things. And you get told, exercise helps with mental health, and it does all these things for you. And as somebody who didn't really exercise before my journey into roller derby, coming into roller derby, I tell you what, it's true. It is so true. Being able to come here, and even just skating, even if I'm just doing skating, especially when I was brand new and didn't really know how to do anything else, like I couldn't even stop, but just coming to practice and skating and just doing something, moving, being around other people that were encouraging, all of those things really helped me realize that there were people that were supportive. A lot of these team members don't actually know that my brother committed suicide. And so with NAMI Walks, and this year, this will be the first time that I've ever really publicly talked about it. Because I think that it's the time and the place to now. I've been able to process those big emotions that come about it. And I think that he would be proud. He was also a registered nurse, also had obviously mental health issues and different things with addiction. And so I think it's just really important that that people know that exercise can be fun. That was something that I never really knew, that exercise really does help your mental health. There are many times where skaters will come to practice and they'll be like, Ashley, I don't know. I just can't tonight. I'm just in a really bad space. And I'll be like, just give it 30 minutes and let's see how you feel. And if you need to go, then go. But give it 30 minutes and let's see how you do. And usually by that 30 minutes, people are like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and stay because this feels good. This feels good to be here and just be able to work it out and just be around people that are supportive.
Again, I love you sharing your story, because I was talking about this with Donana earlier too, but I feel like there's, for some people, including myself, I don't like exercising either. There's that idea, like, I don't want to work out because it's not enjoyable, because I'm not good at it, because I'm not the right size or shape. So I love you talking about how you literally just showed up one night and you couldn't do anything, and people said, yeah, keep doing it. And that made the world difference to you, right?
It absolutely did. I think that if I didn't have those people telling me that if you just keep trying, you will get better, and I promise you will. And then people started sharing their stories about roller derby. Lady Ricochet on the team is one of the longest standing members of the Capital City Crushers. And when she would tell me, when I first started, I also couldn't skate at all. It's okay. And now she could probably jump over the snack bar wall. I mean, like, she's a phenomenal player. And so it really just kind of kept driving home that if you just keep going and you just stay consistent, and the fact that I loved it. It was something that I found that I fell in love with. And I think that other people in this world maybe find that in cycling, or they find it in weightlifting, or they find it in playing baseball or softball or whatever it is. And I really found that with roller derby, where it doesn't feel like exercise. It's fun for me. It's something that I can come to and have support and still have a good workout and be healthy about it too. And it affects both my physical and my mental health.
This is my moment of transparency, since you're also being transparent. I used to have an eating disorder. And so I think some of the most impactful words of advice I've heard in terms of fitness and health and exercise is two things. So firstly, find something you like, right? And just do that. And then secondly, don't treat it like a weight loss game, but treat it more as like, how can I build upon skills? How can I increase my muscle mass? How can I get better at endurance? How can I get better at strength or whatever? What do you think about those words of advice?
I absolutely agree, because when I came to roller derby, I never really looked at it as exercise. I mean, I know I was kind of pushed that direction because I needed to have an exercise program. But roller skating when I was, I don't know, like 10 or 11 and in school for a school party, and I remembered how fun it felt, and I came, and then it didn't become like, oh, I need to go because I need to be able to do X, Y, and Z. It was never really a focus of exercise or even weight loss. And in fact, people on the team would look at me and they would go, especially folks that maybe didn't know I had had weight loss surgery. They'd be like, "You are just disappearing in front of our eyes. What's happening?" And so I would tell them, "Oh yeah, I had weight loss surgery, and like I'm just going to keep melting away until I've reached my baseline weight that I should be at." And roller derby is like helping me with that, because I keep coming. When I first started roller derby, I couldn't do near as much as I could now, as far as in terms of burning calories. To have that, you need to do it to lose weight, to burn the calories. There was none of that. And I really wasn't focused on looking at it to lose more weight. It was really just going, doing it, and then fell in love with it.
Yeah, actually, recently I have found my own kind of exercise, just very recently. And I'm saying this to bring up how wide and varied the world of exercise can be. Because for me, it was a friend who teaches aerial silks class. So, it's like I'm hanging off of silks. I'm not doing push-ups. I'm not, lifting weights. I'm not running a mile. I am just dangling from silks. And oh boy, did that give me a workout the first few times I did that. So do you have like a kind of similar experience with roller derby?
Yeah. So, as we kind of sit here and you guys have been watching a little bit of practice tonight as we're doing this podcast, you've kind of seen folks doing more than just skating. And when I first started doing roller derby, I obviously wasn't doing roller derby. I was literally just learning how to stay upright on my skates. And so that absolutely makes a lot of sense. And I would go home so sore. And it would be such a workout, and I would be doing nothing but literally just skating. I wouldn't even be turning around. I would be like maybe trying to practice stopping, but not near the different activities that we do now, like actually playing roller derby with hitting people, being physical, trying to stop people and using all of your muscles to do that, and so it's a really fun way to look back from where I started with needing help getting off the floor. And now I don't. Now I'm encouraging other new people and telling other new people my story of like, hey, no, it's okay to start from nothing, and it's going to feel really crazy, and it's going to hurt for a long time until you build up those muscles and kind of get used to the things you're doing. But yeah, absolutely.
So our NAMI Walks event is coming up. It's our annual fundraiser. If you're going to go to there and you're going to promote something related to mental health, like something important that you've learned, what would you like to tell everyone?
I'm actually going to speak right before the walk starts. They asked me if I would share my story, so I am going to share my story, kind of how I got into roller derby, and it's going to be the why I roll, and it's going to be surrounded by the story about my brother and losing him to suicide, and then looking at my own life and needing to make choices to make sure that I was living to my fullest potential and being healthy, both mentally and physically, because those things tie together so much. They really do. They're not separated at all. I feel like they're so closely related that you just can't separate it. So I will be sharing my story publicly in the mall about that. So I'm pretty excited for it. Like I said, because not a lot of people know what had happened. So.
Okay, and then last question. If someone comes up to you and maybe they're struggling with their body image, their weight, their depression, what's a piece of advice that you would give to them?
Find resources. Find resources, whatever that resource may be, whether it is online therapy, whether it is somebody local you could talk to, whether it is a women's book club, whatever it is that you can find to find the resources to help you get out of the place that you are in. I suffer from depression and anxiety myself. And so those things I think are very important. It's just understanding and finding the resources. And I think NAMI is a huge part of our community for that, because they have access to resources that folks can find. And I think that's very important. So it's really about finding those resources and utilizing those resources and making that conscious effort to do that.
Well, Miss Behaven, thank you so much for coming on tonight. And we're looking forward to seeing you at NAMI Walks as well.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much.
And that's the end of our very casual podcast episode. I hope you enjoyed hearing from the Crushers roller derby team. I know I sure enjoyed hearing from them. So, as one last reminder, on May 18th, we're hosting our annual NAMI Walks fundraising event. That walk will be held in person starting at 10 a.m. at Westridge Mall in Topeka, Kansas. If you're unable to join, that's totally fine. You can still register on namiwalks.org/Kansas and raise money for NAMI Kansas so we can continue doing what we're doing. I'm Isaac. This is I Am NAMI Kansas. I am NAMI Kansas.